Yes, yes. What's up, man? It's the Triple B Base Boxing Basement. Your boy, your homeboy. Firstly, I want to say thank you so much. Genuinely, it really means a lot to me. All the people that have expressed their condolences for the loss of my dog, Tyson. He was part of the channel, man. Those been watching the channel remember how he used to hate women's boxing and how he used to snore and all this kind of stuff. So, I miss him, man. But that's enough, man. Now, so the alleged big fight of the weekend. Yeah, alleged big fight weekend. Is Jake Paul vs. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., right? And this is nuts, man. You're talking about ex-world champion, Chavez Jr. Now, he wasn't like a great champion. You know what I'm saying? He's not like an all-time great champion. All right? But he could fight to some extent. He won a world title. For me, if you're asking, what his most impressive win is, I would say Andy Lee. He knocked out Andy Lee. He knocked out Andy Lee. Now, Andy Lee is a genuine world champion. Okay? But he's also gone distance with, who else did he beat? Peter Manfredo. He's okay. John Duddy, he wasn't bad. Marco Antonio Rubio. He lost to Sergio Martinez on points. Okay. That's not too bad. Andre Fonfara stopped him in 9. Saul Canelo Alvarez, beat him on points. Who else? What happened? Daniel Jacobs stopped him in 5 rounds. But, this isn't a bad record. He beat other guys like Matt Vander, Ryan Vera. I mean, this is not bad. It's not superstar stuff. But you're talking about a guy who has fought at world level. And he knocked out Andy Lee, who's... he's one of my favorite fighters, Andy Lee, because he was a warrior. I like warriors. I don't like pussy holes. I like warriors. Yeah. But, time waits for no man. And he's 39 now. Now, 39 is not that old these days when you got PEDs. Right? When you got PEDs and modern nutrition and training methods and this kind of thing. But he's still, recently, right? He beat Uriah Hall, who's a UFC fighter, over 6 rounds. He lost to Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva was like in his 40s by then. And he still lost to Anderson Silva, who's not a boxer. He can fight, believe that, Anderson Silva. He can fight, but he still beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., which to me was a bit of a shocker. But he's fighting Jake Paul. Now, Jake Paul, we all know, is a bit of a circus act. Yeah, that's not to say he cannot fight. That's not to say he cannot fight. He can fight at his level. A lot of people say that the fights are fixed, but I don't know, man. He's got some decent wins, some decent fights. I'm not talking about any superstars. Right? But, he's beaten, who is he beaten? Okay, Ben Askren. By the way, Ben Askren has just had some kind of health issue. But he was a wrestler. Tyrone Woodley was a striker. He KO'd him straight out. Anderson Silva, he beat on points. Nate Diaz as well, it's another UFC fighter. You know, a couple of other guys with good records who are pro fighters but were basically bums. Andre August, Ryan Borland, and of course Mike Tyson, age 58 though. You know, but at this level, it's okay. I mean, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, these fights are fixed, man. These fights are fixed. Don't take them seriously." But weirdly, he got beat by Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury, who's unbeaten pro, but he's rubbish. He's area level. If he was fighting in the UK, Tommy Fury would be at area level, which is fine. It's a decent level, but you know, we're not talking about no world champions here. You know what I'm saying? And Jake Paul was fighting Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., an ex-world champion who's beaten guys like Andy Lee. It's very strange to predict this fight, you know. Apart from anything else, right? You know, Julio Cesar Chavez walks around wearing women's underwear and high heels. That to me immediately says you're a weirdo. You're not a real fighter. Huh? You wear women's shoes. All right? Now, not only does Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. wear high heels and women's underwear and stuff like that, right? But he's 39. You know what I'm saying? He's 39, which is not that old in boxing these days with PEDs and stuff, like I said. But, you know, like what, he's had a lot of problems with drugs. He's been in rehab. Obviously, it hasn't worked because he seems high all the time. Even at the weigh-in, his eyes didn't seem right. It seemed like his eyes were all over the shop. He had a slightly flabby waist, which is always an indication that someone has not trained properly. It's an indication that a boxer has lost a lot of weight quickly, yeah, but isn't necessarily fit. But you'd imagine, right? A former world champion. Surely he should be able to knock out Jake Paul. And I don't buy this whole YouTube stuff. He's been boxing as a serious fighter and trained seriously at the top level for a few years now. Yeah, he might have started in YouTube, but there's plenty of guys that done well in boxing that started late, you know. I mean, Gay J, Anthony Joshua, started boxing at 18. Rocky Marciano. By the way, I ain't comparing Jake Paul to Rocky Marciano. Rocky Marciano started boxing at 23, and he was one of the best world heavyweight champions ever. So, you know, I don't buy this pathetic, facile, easy labeling. Oh, he's a YouTuber. He's not a boxer. But obviously he is a boxer because he's had like 10 pro fights. So obviously he is a boxer. But you know, even a 39-year-old ex-world champion who's knocked out Andy Lee should be able to flatten a guy, right, who has been boxing for only 5 years, right? But what's going to happen? Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't trust this fight. You know? I don't think that, you know, Chavez is in great shape. He didn't look in great shape. He had flabby hips, which, as I said, usually indicates someone who's just trained to lose weight rather than fight. I mean, he's something like 5-1, Chavez, and you think, well, surely he's got to be able to beat Jake Paul. But I don't believe it. I think there are fixes. I think there are conditions where people agree, to hold back. Look at Mike Tyson vs. Jake Paul. He's 58, Mike Tyson, but you see Jake Paul was kind of taking it easy on him. He was so short, Mike Tyson. I mean, he's 58, man. He spends the whole time doing mushrooms, smoking greens, getting his drink on, and he's almost 60 years old. And that's his best win. So, is there an agreement in place? That's the question. Is there an agreement in place? I would say very much possibly. The only thing that makes me think maybe there isn't is that they gave Tommy Fury the decision over Jake Paul. Now, Tommy Fury is whack, number one. He's area level at best, which I said is no disgrace, but he's still a bum. He can't punch, despite having the perfect boxing body, huge long arms, broad shoulders and muscles, and still he's a bum. But they gave him the decision, so could it be a real fight? Yeah, possibly. But even if it is a real fight, has the drug addict, the alleged ex-drug addict and alcoholic, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., got enough to beat a guy who at least trains very hard? I don't know. There's too many questions. For me, 5-1 is a great price on Chavez. But the fact he's a degenerate cokehead who wears women's underwear, and high heels and minces around his house, and has been brought up in privileged circumstances. What is he gonna actually really try? Is he gonna try? Has he trained properly for this fight, or is he just taking whatever it is, 10 mil or whatever it is? I don't know, 5 mil, 2 mil, whatever it is. Is he just taking the cash money? And I would say yes. So I'm not gonna bet on it. I might put a $5 on Chavez for fun. Also, Chavez, as I said, got beat by Anderson Silva, who's an MMA fighter who is 45, and who Jake Paul beat himself. Now, that's not great form. I mean, it's pathetic what modern pro boxing is about. It's utterly pathetic. It's become a circus act. It's become a celeb sphere, it's become about names. They're talking about, for example, Manny Pacquiao, who obviously is a very good fighter, although he's stuffed full of PEDs. Although according to Otto Wallin, he should never fail the test. Of course he's not doing PEDs, right? But we all know a guy who moved up from light flyweight to whatever it was, middleweight, of course he's doing PEDs. So I find it embarrassing, and it's a pay-per-view fight. Imagine paying for this dog shit, Imagine paying for this dog shit. So, what I think, I can give a rat's ass. I find it embarrassing. I find it cringe. And the WBA, I think, said they will rate Jake Paul. Give him a world ranking if he beats Chavez, And then they'll put him in against someone like, who's that bum? What's his name? The so-called Swedish guy. The black Swedish guy. What's his name? I can't even remember, man. He's irrelevant. But, what? So, then he wins the world title. it's simply insane. The state of modern boxing. Boxing's always been dodgy. I said a million times, it's always been a crack hole of sports. In other words, it's a lie. It's a blowjobbing sport. It's a crack pipe smoking sport. So I don't even want to make a prediction, because my prediction would be if Chavez Jr., the son of the legend as well, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., Mexico's best ever boxer, the best ever boxer from Mexico, right? His bum of a son wearing high heels, is fighting a YouTuber, whatever. And people are getting all excited. It's cringe. It's pathetic. I think, like I said, I'm going to start watching lawn bowls. Bare knuckle boxing, I think, is where it's at. Bare knuckle boxing is where it's at, because you get violence. You don't get stupidity. The Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight was pathetic, man. Pathetic, man. A sort of sparring session with a 60-year-old man, against a inexperienced fighter, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I never will care. And they're charging us pay-per-view to watch this dog shit. I can't talk about this anymore anyway. Peace in the Middle East.